Hey guys, Regina from Eat Travel Life, and today I want to talk about fruit trees and tips that we've learned since we've been planting our fruit trees the past 6 years and some problems that we've had. Um, Hopefully this will help you guys have your own fruit orchard as well. So we are in the middle of April right now, and I just want to show you what our trees look like. Some of these have been around for several years, and some of them we just planted this year. You'll notice that we have a fence around the trees. This is because we have replaced all these trees at least twice. We bought bare root trees the first year and they all died. If it wasn't them being bare root or the deer gnawing on them, breaking off their branches or rubbing on them, they died. And then we started buying them from the local, well, they were under warranty because we ordered them online. So we replaced them and they died again. So we went and bought local trees from the gardening centers here in our area. We are in Michigan, so they have seemed to do really well. So we've got an apple tree here, and we've got different varieties, and you'll want to have different varieties so that they will pollinate, cross-pollinate each other. You can do research to see what you will like. We have semi-dwarf. You can get dwarf, which are really small, semi-dwarf, grow taller obviously, and then there's the regular size that are huge. And we went with semi-dwarf, and we will continue to trim these down. I'll take you and show you the older trees that we have that have been on the property probably for 50 years. But with the apple trees, they will pollinate each other, and we have different varieties that will come on at different times of the year, so we're not getting bombarded with a bunch of apples all at once. We also have a crab tree that will help pollinate as well with the apples. In case they don't like each other, they will at least pollinate with the crab apple. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apple trees. We've got Honeycrisp, Candy Crisp. I think there's a Fuji. I know this one here is a Granny Smith. It's one that we've had for several years, and you can see it's getting quite big. It has produced fruit. It looks like it's getting ready to bloom, which is awesome. And you want them to bloom, and you don't want it to get cold, because those buds there are where your apples come from. So we have not trimmed this tree yet this year, and you can see you want to make sure all the branches are going up, and it kind of looks like this. So it might be empty in the middle, but like my hand, you want it to be up and growing. That way you can pick the apples. Anything that's crossing should be trimmed off of. So I'll show you that on one of our older trees. We have had a heck of a time with cherry trees, and we didn't get any last year because we couldn't find what we wanted. So we found them this year and we scooped them up. We'll need to trim off the dead on this one. It looks pretty open and nice. This is a Bing semi-dwarf. And then this one, she's got a lot of good growth on the bottom, and see how it's opened like we talked about? It's a Stella. Eventually we'll probably need to trim this stalk down because it's kind of big. And then this is a Montmorency semi-dwarf as well. She looks pretty good. Got a lot of nice branches on her that we'll see open up and bloom as the little other branches come on. I want to say this is a pear tree. We have a couple of those. I think one of them, but this is our apricot. I forget. I'd have to look at the notes, but it's got a lot of growth, new growth on it up here, which is great. Some of this is dead and needs to be trimmed off, but it's gotten pretty big around. And you notice we've got them staked. That's because the winds come from the west and blow them. So we have staked it on the side of the wind, And some of them we've got them with ties, and some of them we've got them with string, depending on how affected they are with the wind. This is one of our trees we still need to replace. It's the last one we need to replace. You can see that it's got a lot of rubbing so much here that it really killed the tree. There's nothing left of it for it to grow. So we'll need to replace that. That's a peach tree. So we'll be replacing that. And then we've got another peach tree over here. And we had two different varieties, so they came on. This one's an early one. Just beautiful. This is our pear trees. We have a Bartlett and another variety. Don't make me guess what it is. This one is the Bartlett, I know that. So it's doing pretty well. Needs to be trimmed. And then here, this is Stanley. We've had to replace Stanley. This is the second Stanley we've gotten. He's a plum tree. We call him Stanley, the man, because his name's Stanley. You can see that our bees are way out there too. So they will come over here and pollinate. And then we've got Rose. She is another plum tree that we got. A little bit smaller, but we're hopeful with her. She's got a little growth on the bottom there. This is the second year we've had her. So she's doing pretty good. So what we like to do with our trees is we like to dig a very big hole so that they have adequate growth for roots, and we will roll the gallon bucket that they come in, or 5-gallon bucket that they come in, and then plant them. I like to plant them when I know it's going to rain, because that gives me less chores to do in watering the plants and the trees to make sure that they grow. And if it's not going to rain, then we will water them daily. You want to make sure that you plant them when it's cooler out. If you plant them in the dead of summer, you probably won't have them survive. You want to check their leaves to make sure how they're doing. Do they need more water? Are they looking a little curled up and curled up like they're starting to get crispy? That's an indication that your tree is dying, and you might need some help. We will fertilize the trees when we first put them in, and we put little stakes in of stuff to help them grow, give them some nutrients. And then when we in the fall, we'll give them nutrients also to help them winter well. So this one's one of the new ones, and it was planted 5 days ago, so it's doing pretty good, I think. We haven't staked it yet, and then, like I was saying, we do use string on them. This Granny Smith, when she gets in the wind, she's a little top heavy, and she has grown apples for us. I think we got 5 one year, so we're hoping that it'll continue on and be prosperous. You can see down at the bottom we have little things that go around those. You can get those at the gardening center. Those keep the rabbits from chewing on your trees as well. Granny's doing pretty good. She's got a little green on her. That's okay. And you want to make sure that you do plant the trees a distance away from each other. You know, read the tags and see what they say. Ours are planted far enough around for us to be able to mow around them, as well as we can put mulch around them if need be. We have chickens out here, so they're doing a lot of scratching and things. And just keep in mind, if you do have animals around them, that they're not digging up your plants. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the new ones that we've planted, or pen off the chickens until they take root. We have other flowering trees too that help. This is a ornamental cherry tree, so it doesn't really grow cherries, but it will help pollinate. I've noticed the pear trees in the back, we have an ornamental pear back here too, back there. And once we started planting the pear trees, those started growing. They started blooming, And then we have a crabapple farther off on the property, and I noticed that when we planted the apple trees, the crabapple tree on the other side of the property started blooming as well. And we hadn't had it bloom in like 5 years, and all of a sudden it bloomed. So it's kind of interesting to see what else on your property will start to flourish once you start planting fruit trees. Here is one of the old growth apple trees that we have. We've been trimming them. When we first moved here, they hadn't been trimmed in a really long time. So it's taken 6 years to get them to where they just need a little maintenance every year. And you can see, like we talked about before, apple tree is like this, so it's open and will allow fruit to grow. And there's a lot that needs to be trimmed off of the tree still. This is one of our older growth cherry trees. We finally have gotten it pretty much to where we want it to be. If you'll see in here, we had to take out a huge chunk because it was bugs so huge. It was going up in the middle, and you want that opening in your trees, and all these little flowers are going to be cherries. This is an earlier cherry that we get. I'll show you the other tree we have. It's not flowering quite as much yet. Here is our other cherry tree, and we have trimmed this one. The final cut was done. It had huge logs that had to be cut out of it, actually. You can see here, it's like the other one. And then look at these clusters. These clusters here, those are all going to be cherries. Both of these trees give us sweet cherries. The other ones, the little ones that are mostly sweet. Here are our old growth apple trees. You can see that they're kind of sad. They were so overgrown. We had 2 more, but they just weren't producing and not doing well. And we might be losing this one and this one this year. They're not doing so well. And they're so tall that you really can't get the fruit off. I mean, you can use a ladder, but this is what happens when trees aren't taken care of. We've had to cut off a few branches, and see how big this root is, or the base. It's pretty huge for a tree. I mean, it's substantial. So they're old growth for sure. They will flower and they will be beautiful. They all come on at different times. Here's our pear tree. This is one of them that we've trimmed a little bit out of it. She's quite tall. We get the ladder out and we cut it out. It gets really great fruit. There was another one that we had next to it, but it wasn't doing well, so we took it down. And then if you have a lot of fruit trees, you're probably going to have a lot of critters. So you'll want to consider a mulberry tree. They consider those sacrificial trees because the animals will eat all the berries off of that. And it's true, they do, but they also like the other berries too. They're not going to say, oh, there's mulberries over here, we shouldn't be eating the cherries. Because we went away for a weekend, the birds ate all the cherries. So consider having mulberry trees near your fruit to keep them from harm while you harvest. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe our channel, and let us know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.